Lately, we've been seeing a ton of videos and TikToks popping up, showing that a lot of the luxury goods from big name brands are actually made in China, then shipped off to France or Italy, have a fancy label slapped on, and sold for crazy high prices. And honestly, it's hard to doubt that that's what's actually happening. Especially with things like leather goods, they're likely manufactured in China. And by the time they hit the shelves, the only thing the brand has really done is add their logo and maybe carry out the final QC checks. If these brands want us to believe otherwise, they need to step up, show us real factory tours from France and Italy, actual proof they're making this stuff there. But for me, leather goods, perfumes, and sneakers aren't really the focus of my channel. What I've come here to talk about is luxury Swiss watches. And specifically, all these Chinese TikToks claiming that 90% of Swiss watches are actually made in China. But what does that even mean? What does 90% made in China really look like? Are they saying the whole watches are built in China and just shipped to Switzerland for a quick quality check and some fancy packaging? Or does it mean something else? And honestly, are these claims even true? To really get a handle on this, we need to understand two things. First, the average mechanical watch has about 200 components. Everything from the tiny movement parts like the plates, bridges, wheels, and balance, to the crystal, the case, the bracelet, and the dial. Second, we need to talk about what Swiss made actually means, and why it's Swiss made and not just made in Switzerland. When it comes to all those components, it's not crazy to think that some, maybe even a lot, are made in China. Depending on the brand you want to talk about, because not all watch companies operate the same way, parts could be made overseas, then shipped to Switzerland to be tested, assembled, and finished. Now, do we know exactly which brands are sourcing how much from China? Not really. And honestly, the luxury watch world could definitely be more transparent about that. But even if some watch brands are sourcing 50 or 60% of their watch parts from China, what's the real issue? Why do people automatically look down on made in China? If instead we said parts come from Germany or Sweden, would it get the same hate? Here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with Chinese manufacturing. This is the global economy we live in. If companies want to stay competitive, turn a profit, and keep their shareholders happy, of course they're going to outsource where it makes sense. There's no escaping that. And as long as Swiss brands maintain strict quality standards with their suppliers, whether they're in China or anywhere else, what are we even complaining about? The second point is about the term Swiss made. It's actually protected by Swiss law, and there are specific guidelines manufacturers have to follow if they want to use that label. Now, how strict or loose those rules really are could be up for debate. But honestly, since I don't have any hard evidence one way or the other, for the sake of this video, we're just going to take it at face value. So here's a quick breakdown of what Swiss made actually means, especially when it comes to watches. A watch is to be regarded as a Swiss watch if its technical development has taken place in Switzerland, its movement has been cased up in Switzerland, final inspection by the manufacturer took place in Switzerland, and at least 60% of the manufacturing costs is generated in Switzerland. To be regarded as a Swiss movement, the movement must have undergone technical development in Switzerland, be inspected by the manufacturer in Switzerland, and at least 60% of the manufacturing costs be generated in Switzerland. Its manufacturer must also be Swiss for at least 50% of the value of all the parts, excluding the cost of assembly. So claims that Swiss watches are 90% made in China are simply not true. What about made in Switzerland? Why isn't this wording used instead? Well, made in Switzerland doesn't have the same level of legal precision in Swiss law and is more loose terminology. It doesn't explicitly specify that a product had to go through the rigorous Swiss processes, especially for an industry like watches. So the Swiss prefer the more clearly defined Swiss made to ensure that all the legal requirements are met. So to sum it all up, do Swiss watches, big or small, outsource some parts from China? Yes, they do. But keep in mind, they have to stick to strict quality control standards that line up with the brand's goals and reputation. Should we care? that some parts are made in China? Honestly, no. It shouldn't matter any more than if the parts were made in Germany, Japan, or anywhere else. But we as customers should be informed and aware. And I definitely think that watch brands need to be more transparent about it. Lastly, depending on the brand, because each watch brand is different and has different manufacturing capability, capacity, and demand for its products, parts like the case, bracelet, dial, and even up to 50% of the movement's value might be made in China. And I really want to stress the word might here. But one thing's for sure, the most important processes such as movement assembly, the movement casing, the other 50% of the movement's value, watch assembly, all the R&D behind it, technical development, and final inspection are still done in Switzerland. That's it for this video. I hope that you found it helpful and that it cleared up some of the confusion around the Swiss watch industry. If so, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.